Hey, hi. It is Friday, and I am not at my normal house. So tonight we have a new, it's okay. We are going live from Houston. And I wanted to quickly say that last night when I said that the number 42 was something that I heard on a podcast, which was very true. And let me actually backtrack. So you'll see me, I have a mic tonight. I am recording so I can edit my audio later for the podcast. And then you may hear other background noises because I'm not at home. But I'm excited to be here. And tonight we talk about grit. So before we jump into that, let me quickly just say that the number 42, while I did originally hear it from a podcast, I also read it in a book. Happy Friday! Thank you for being here tonight. So 42% more likely to achieve a goal is something that I actually heard, or I read also in a book that said Dr. Gail Matthews, which is a psychology professor at the Dominican University of California, did a study and figured that out. So while I did hear it on a podcast, I've also read it in a book, and there's proof that there's more than just Google telling me that this is what it is, right? You are more likely to achieve a goal if you write it down. So wanted to preface that. And then now tonight, day 20, positive success habits, same you, new mood, grit. So grit is an interesting word to me. We might think of grit as like sand or gravel or something gritty, right? But it also means firmness of character. And through passion and perseverance, you can do more. And like I said, I'm not at home, so my presentation might be a little bit off tonight, but bear with me. So we can learn and grow through our passion and perseverance because skills will always outweigh talent. We talked about this before, and Angela Duckworth, the author of Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance is what the title of her book is called, talks about how talent and effort are a formula to achieve. So talent will always be less than effort. You can be good at something, but unless you put in the effort, you're not going to achieve that skill that you are working toward, because skill is hard work and takes time, right? So you have to show up, and talent times effort equals skill. But skill times effort equals achievement. This is something that we learn in this book called Grit. And grit will always trump talent. She talks about developing a fascination, developing self-improvement every single day, and developing this greater purpose, understanding what your purpose is. And lastly, a growth mindset. So when you combine these 4 qualities, you will have more grit. And it is something that you can learn. It's something that you can grow from. And I'll say for me personally, when I read this book back in 2018, it really hit hard because I had to learn who I was. And if I think about these 4 kind of pillars that she talks about, develop a fascination, daily improvements, greater purpose, and a growth mindset, I can apply it to my life. And I hope that going through this journey of the positive success habits training and discussing more about my journey and how I got to this point is helping you achieve some of your goals and dreams, right? Like that's the ultimate goal here. But I've developed a fascination about gaining a growth mindset through daily improvement by implementing positive success habits. But this only has come by understanding my greater purpose and understanding my why and my core values and my vision and knowing where I want to go in life. And maybe you hear my dog right now, I'm sorry. Overall, though, I just want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to show up and impress myself every single day. So I get that out of celebrating life, right? I get that by completing my wheel of life and noticing where I'm lacking and trying to figure out how I can improve upon those areas that I wasn't showing up for myself as I should, whether that be in celebration or finance or family or friends, these different areas that I'm trying to grow and be better at. If I show up every single day, I'll be a little bit better. And that's the same for you, right? So what started this whole journey? I took the grit scale test in the book, Grit, and honestly, I didn't score very well, and I was kind of surprised. And I was really surprised that this test that has been given to countless people, I think this study was done with about 2,800 people, and Angela Duckworth went out and gave this test to people in spelling bees and in the military, and realized that these tests were not proving who was gritty. So she determined how this test or this grit scale could prove who has a gritty personality. And most of my life, I've thought I was a gritty person. I've pushed myself. I've held myself accountable. I've always felt like I was an overachiever, but not to do well on that test kind of surprised me. So I was very intrigued on how to be a gritty person. And to be a gritty person, you have to have self-control, passion, and perseverance. But you don't have to have a high IQ or certain genetics. And I think for too long, researchers and scientists had been telling us that you were either born with grit or you weren't, and there was nothing that you could do about it. But the more we know about grit, it is something that you can learn, and it's something that you can grow from, and you can achieve more in life by showing up and implementing positive success habits. So let's just define what passion, self-control, and perseverance mean very briefly. So passion is something that you want to pursue with heart, right? You want to show up and you want to succeed and be better at, and for yourself. And then self-control is waiting for the right moment. So if you've already eaten 5 candy bars, maybe you shouldn't have another one. Or if you have just spent a lot of money, maybe you shouldn't go buy something else, right? Like, having self-control and self-discipline is something hard in today's day and age because marketers understand our psychology more than even we do. And then we also have perseverance. So perseverance means to keep fighting no matter what, keep pushing and showing up. And that's hard, right? Like, it's hard to hold yourself accountable to that. But you can learn grit. You can grow and you can develop a gritty skill set. By doing this, you eliminate weaknesses, you can implement positive success habits, and most importantly, try to learn from people that are successful in what you want to do. Because, as I've said, success leaves clues, right? So after I read this book, and I wasn't in a great mindset, but I decided that I was going to take action. And I set out to do 3 things. Number 1 was accomplish something from my bucket list that I wrote when I was 20 years old. Number 2, get out of depression and find my why. And number 3, become an entrepreneur. And so during this journey of finding my why, I developed the positive success habits that we've been talking about, because that's the very foundation of how I overcame depression. But number one, I really wanted to accomplish something on my bucket list, because achieving something like that seemed like such a big thing, big accomplishment in my life. So I wanted to run a marathon. And I wrote on my bucket list that I would run a marathon by the time I was 30 years old, because I wanted to prove to myself that I was a runner. But at the end of the day, I had ran my whole life. I would run all across the town I grew up in. I would show up places and people would ask me, how far did you run? And it would be upwards of 10 miles, but it was never enough, right? I never considered myself a runner. And the only time I had ever actually ran an organized race was a 5K mud run. So wasn't much of anything. And I told, in my opinion, I wanted to do a marathon. I wanted to get to that next level. And I think, before I jump into this marathon story, this marathon journey of mine, to explain how I overcame limiting beliefs and grew a gritty mindset, I'd like to talk about the happy chemicals of the brain, because this plays very deeply into our mindset and how we go through our journey of life. So we're going to talk about EDSO, and that's how I learned it from Simon Sinek, and I think that that is a great way to remember it. So we've got endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. Endorphins mask physical pain. That maybe sometimes you've heard of it as a runner's high, and you can develop a craving. For me, I show up and I'm like, I just got to work out. I have all this energy and I want to keep going. I have this craving to do more. You also have dopamine, and dopamine is that feeling of satisfaction. So when you check off the to-do list, one of the things that you accomplished today, or you achieve a goal and you're really proud of yourself, that's a dopamine hit. But they can also be super highly addictive. And dopamine hits also happen when you get social media likes. There's that bing, and you're happy, right? You get that moment of, ooh, I just got a like and I'm excited about it. That's a dopamine hit. But you want to keep getting more. You want to keep being better at that, right? And serotonin is a feeling of pride. It's the leadership chemical. It's when you feel accountable and you're grateful and you feel strong and confident, and when you experience serotonin, most oftentimes it's because you're being held accountable by other people. But when I signed up for my marathon, it was because I was holding myself accountable. I signed up for me, and I told myself, I'm going to do this because I do not break promises to myself. I want to finish this marathon in 6.5 hours, 6 hours and 30 minutes, to run 26.2 miles was my deadline, was my goal, was my destination, was how I was going to achieve this goal, right? And lastly, oxytocin is a feeling of love and friendship, trust and connectedness. It's a long-lasting feeling. Think about, like, if you hug somebody and it's just so quick, or if you just like let it happen and you keep hugging. So oxytocin is released in that environment. So I give you all of these backgrounds of the EDSO as well as grit because I want to tell you about my marathon journey, and I want to tell you how I trained for it, or lack thereof, if we're being honest, because I didn't do a great job training for it. I thought that I could overcome physical hurdles through mental determination. And I did. And it was very fulfilling mentally and emotionally. But physically, I hurt myself, right? I physically should not have done what I did. And I mean, even mentally, I think that I struggle a little bit because I know that if I had trained harder, I could have been better. But you'll see during this very brief explanation of my marathon journey how I showed up for myself. I implemented positive success habits. I put in every aspect that we've been talking about over the past 26 days to be able to run this marathon. And hopefully you can see how they all stack, right? That's the whole goal. I just want you to see that if you set your mind to something and you push yourself and you have discipline and you lean into your fears and you have courage, you can do whatever you want to. You can't stop. You have to show up for yourself. So let me take a quick drink of this really quick before I go into this story. So my marathon journey started on November 14th, 2019. 24 days before the race. That's when I signed up. That's when I started training. That's when I decided I will run a marathon. Now, let me just tell you, when people are training for a marathon, they typically train for 4 months at minimum, or maybe 126 days is another way to put it. I clearly signed up ill-prepared, but I was holding myself accountable. I said, I want to do this and I'm going to do this. I had a goal, and that was to run a marathon in 26.2 miles within 6 hours and 30 minutes. And I had the courage to say, I'm going to do this, right? So over the next 17 days, till December 2nd, I had ran 21 miles, with my longest day being 6 miles. Then, on Monday, December 2nd, I showed up to the shoe store, the running store, and bought a new pair of shoes, which, if you know anything about running, you don't do that either, right? 6 days before a marathon, you don't show up and buy new shoes. You need to train in your shoes. But I did that, and I had ran an additional 2 miles that week, I think. I didn't really train in my new shoes, but I had a vision that I was going to run this marathon. I had determination. I was definitely stressed out because at this point I'm thinking I've only ran 20 miles or so, and I haven't been putting in the effort and the time to gain new skills to be able to continue through this journey. But I was still committed. I told myself I'm determined enough to show up and want to run this marathon. So on December 7th, the night before my race, this was almost 7 months ago, I went to bed at 12:30 a.m., which is not good, right? Because the race started at 7 a.m. But I was at my friend's engagement party, and I refused to not be there because of a decision I made. And so I said I need to leave, and I went to bed at 12:30. So I'm sleeping on 6 hours of sleep, trying to run a marathon. I'm only trained for 23 miles to run a marathon. I've only given myself 24 days to run a marathon, but I was determined because that test told me that I wasn't gritty enough, that I would show up and I would have grit, right? I would show up and be better than I could before, because I knew that my willpower would outpush anything my body told me I could or could not do. And that's what I want you to implement. I want you to realize that mind over matter is such a thing, right? So December 8th, I wake up 6 a.m., start stressing out because I realized I don't even know how to get out of my neighborhood, because my neighborhood is on the running route. And I was like, okay, well, I need to eat food. So I make a chocolate milk and an egg sandwich, which probably not the best thing to do before you're running 26.2 miles, but that's okay. We're going to just keep adding on to these obstacles that I've created for myself. I arrive finally at the starting gate at 6:45, 6:50 in the morning. And I zigzag through all the people, and I'm determined to get to the front because I think, well, I need to be at the front. If it starts at 7, I want to make sure I'm going and I'm the fastest person here, which obviously I wasn't going to be. I haven't been training, right? But little did I know, because of lack of training, it doesn't start until you cross the start line. I thought everybody started at 7 and that was your time. But at 7 a.m., well, at 6:55, I look around and all these people are excited. They're laughing. People are jumping up and down. They're having fun. They're ready to go. And I just start to have this overwhelming feeling that, why am I here? I haven't trained. I haven't prepared for this. I'm in shoes that have 3 miles on them, and I've got 26.2 miles ahead of me in 6 hours. Like, who does this, right? I've not prepared myself. Maybe mentally I was ready. I had a positive mindset, but is that really going to keep me going? Anyway, 7 a.m., the horn blows, and we're off. And I'm getting it. I'm feeling good. And we're pushing through, and it's so fun. There's all these people. They're cheering us on. They've got signs, and everybody's excited. Well, about 4 miles in, we break off from the half marathoners. And I remember this little hill, maybe this high, like it wasn't a big hill. We go up this hill and all the half marathoners turn, and it's super dense fog. I look forward. There are 3 people in front of me. I look behind me. There's nobody behind me. They all turned, and I'm thinking, what in the world have I just done? I'm only 2 miles from my house. Maybe I should quit now. Or I've got another 22.2 miles to go. So I decide I'm going to keep pushing forward. I'm feeling pretty good. And about 8 miles in, I keep passing people. We get back kind of with the loop of society. There's a bunch of people around, and it's exciting again. Those endorphins are going up, and there's this serotonin rush because there's other people holding me accountable, right? EGSO. And I'm feeling like, okay, I can do this. I've only got 18 miles left. I've already ran 8. Let's keep going. Well, at about mile 10, I start getting tired. I get fatigued, and I want to start walking. And about mile 11 is when the hills came. And after mile 12, my knees were hurting so badly that I started lunging. I had people who were giving me their Gatorades, who were on the racetrack, because they were like, what, are you okay? Are you okay? And I kept saying, I'm fine. I can do it. I can go. But people are running past me. People are walking past me because I'm over here literally lunging my way through the marathon course. But I've only got 13 miles left. I'm halfway done. I can keep going, right? That's what I'm telling myself. Well, at mile 14, I was crying. This is the first time I had cried on the track. Not the last, but the first. I was crying on the track, and the paramedics from like the little health station came running up to me because I'm lunging and I'm crying and I'm not doing so great. And they said, hey, here's some aspirin. Like, hey, take this, it'll feel better. So I think it's going to kick in, and I think I'm going to be feeling better. Well, it didn't ever kick in. And those lunges were the longest mile I had ever gone, because it was just a straight path. And I'm in my head, and my mindset is thinking like, why are you even here? Pick up your phone and you go home. Nobody's going to be at the end of the line, at the finish line, because you didn't tell anybody about this journey. You wanted to do this all by yourself. Why did you go through this on your own, right? That's all these negative thoughts start going through my mind. So because I'm going to run out of time, I'm going to have to speed this story up. But at mile 17, I was surprised by a friend. This person came and met me on the track, and they encouraged me to keep going. So for the next 3 miles, through blood, sweat, tears, literally lunging my way through, and this person encouraging me to keep going, I was able to make it to mile 20. And then I get through this little downtown area, and I'm thinking, 6 miles, I'm running out of time. Like, I'm not going to make it to the finish line. I turn the corner, and there's my husband and my dog, and I start bawling again. I couldn't stop it. And I come, and I'm limping, and I'm lunging, and I don't even know how I'm getting to the next step, but I'm putting one step in front of the other, and I'm showing up, and I'm trying to be better than I was, because I know I can finish if I just keep moving, right? I didn't stop. Even when I got to mile 23, after my husband says, hey, I think maybe you should quit because you're clearly in pain. We can leave now. I've got my vehicle. I'll take you home. And I said, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going. And I'm lunging and I'm limping, right? Mile 23. I run past this table and they're all packing up. There's not a runner in sight. Not behind me, not in front of me. Nobody's around. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Like, I'm running out of time. I'm literally lunging through a marathon, and I've still got 3.2 miles to go. These people are packing up the snacks. They're packing up all the water. They don't have any more Gatorade. Like, I am one of the last people on the track. I'm feeling so defeated, so overwhelmed, so frustrated. I can't stop crying. And then this white utility truck comes driving up, and he says, hey, you're no longer in the bounds of the race. You have to get on the sidewalk, and you're no longer protected. You're running out of time. Like, we don't even think you're going to finish it, basically, is what he was telling me. And I didn't know what to do. I keep going, put one foot in front of the other. I'm pushing, right? And he says, I didn't even know how the racetrack went because I thought all the markers were going to be pulled down. And he goes, well, you need to make a left and a right and a left and go straight here. Okay, like I'm going to remember, right? So I go and I get lost on the track. And I'm thinking, like, I'm never going to finish this. I'm so close. I'm at mile 25. Well, I turn the corner and I can see the mile marker for mile 26. And I look forward and I think, I'm so close. 0.2 miles. Once I hit that flag, only 0.2 miles. And I'm limping and I'm lunging and I am defeated. But you know what I did? Because I do have grit, because I told myself I was not going to break a promise to myself, and because I experienced every single happy chemical, I felt endorphins, I felt dopamine, I felt serotonin, I felt oxytocin. I've never had this overwhelming feeling. You know what I did? I crossed that finish line. 6 hours, 21 minutes, and 41 seconds. And nobody can ever tell me that I'm not a runner. I can no longer have this limiting belief that I am not a runner. And by the way, the only person who was behind me was a 72-year-old man, and he crossed the finish line 5 minutes after me. But I did it. 514th place. I ran a marathon. I pushed myself because I didn't think I could do it. I impressed myself. I don't think anybody else thought I could do it either because I didn't quit. I want you to push yourself. I want you to prove to yourself that you can do hard things no matter what. You have grit. And if you don't think you do, you can learn how to have grit. And if you want to keep going, you can do it, right? So I have totally ran out of time, and I condensed my story because I wanted you guys to hear from the start to the finish, but I got my finisher jacket. I can call myself a runner, and I'm convinced that you can do whatever you set your mind to. That's what we're implementing through our positive success habits training. I don't remember what the homework was, but it will be posted in literally 1 minute. So I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We only have 2 more nights left, and if you want to be on our email list, make sure you let me know because it goes out once a week. Positive Success Habits training won't end after this. I hold you accountable. I give you techniques and tools, and I believe in your goals and dreams. And even when nobody's asking those hard questions, and maybe you don't believe in yourself in the dark, right? In the dark, which we've talked about, I want to help push you because I believe in you. I hope you have a great weekend. Celebrate your wins. Know that you're made for more and keep pushing and keep going towards your goals and dreams because you can do whatever you set your mind to. Bye.